that this issue is going to radicalize a lot of people. And I think that if they don't start dealing with this issue and accommodating it and like listening to the people instead of just calling them racist, I think that you are going to have a Hitler 2.0 situation. Like, it might not be as extreme, but it also might be more extreme. And I think that it's coming up very, very soon. I don't think it's something that's going to happen in like 50 years. I think it's going to happen in like 20 at the most. And you're probably already going to start seeing discussions around this in the next 5 years. But it will take time. Obviously, like, you know, even Hitler didn't immediately take over, right? It took time.
Okay, so I wonder if I'll get into trouble for talking about this. It's very dangerous to discuss the founding myth of our society, which is World War II, to discuss it unfiltered on the internet, because you may get into trouble. Especially when World War II is viewed from a very simplistic lens. Most people do not study history texts, aren't interested in things that happened. They're just watching movies, they're reading on social media, reading the newspapers. And the version that is presented there, it's extremely simple, right? Like, Germany started World War II, Hitler came to power, the Germans were inefficient at cracking down on the Nazis, like they didn't have enough hate speech laws, they glorified and allowed certain ideas to exist on the free marketplace of ideas, and they supported Hitler, and because of that you got World War II, right? So everything that has to do with geopolitics, economics, other world events are completely pushed away in order to have like this very simplistic 5-year-old understanding of history. It's kind of like that meme from the internet, and suddenly, for no reason whatsoever, Hitler came to power. And so the real question is, well, what happened then? Right? Like, what created World War II? How did the Nazis gain power? Because they gained power with the support of people, right? Sure, they didn't manage to win democratically, but there were enough people supporting them, donating money to them, championing their ideas, many of them intellectuals. And you gotta ask the question, like, well, how did it happen? Now, there's two reasons for it. The major one is probably something that everyone knows, is the humiliation of Germany after World War I. A lot of Germans, you know, they were suffering economically. Inflation was abysmal. A lot of Germans had to flee the country at the time in order to look for work. A lot of Germans moved all the way to the United States in order to find jobs there, because in Germany the levels of poverty were abysmal. And so a lot of people were dissatisfied, especially when they looked at the elites, and the elites were partying, that they were completely disconnected from the people. They had hate speech laws, by the way, despite the fact that a lot of people claim that with a little bit more of hate speech laws, Nazism wouldn't have happened. Completely incorrect. No, like, the grievances of the people were completely ignored. But the second reason that almost no one talks about, and I would like for anyone that studies history to contradict me on this, the second reason, which I think is even more important than the first, was the rise of communism. Like, both Nazism and fascism were reactions that people had against what was happening in Soviet Russia at the time. Because you have a country, the Soviet Union, which was murdering priests, was destroying churches, was killing aristocrats, were going through taking away the land and the property from the average people, and all of that was in the newspapers. Like, sure, you know, people didn't have social media, they didn't talk to Russians online, but they saw the newspapers, they knew what's happening there, and worst off, it was that the Soviet Union had imperialistic ambitions. It wasn't like a national thing, it was workers of the world unite. So yeah, like the workers in Italy, the workers in Germany, the workers in Britain, all of them had to unite in order to do the atrocity that were happening in Soviet Union in their country. And so you have like all these nations all of a sudden freaking out. You have all the rich people putting money in order to stop what's happening in the Soviet Union from coming over there. And the ideology was actually spreading, right? Like you had the people that were anarchists committing terrorist attacks even in the United States. Like, for instance, the Hay Day massacre. Now we call it Workers' Day and we celebrate it. But what basically happened is that the Germans there had newspapers that were in German. Americans couldn't read it, and they were inciting the workers to revolution. And part of that was to organize protests, and the workers did protest. And by the way, like, the workers actually had grievances, right? But the anarchists, the communists, they infiltrated the protests, and they would throw bombs at the police line. And back then, the police didn't have the same non-lethal intervention tools that modern police had. So, like, they would shoot against the worker. And that's why it's called the Heyday Massacre. But it's interesting, right? Because now it's being glorified, right? The Soviet Union used that in order to call it the Workers' Day. But it was an unnecessary bloodshed. Like the anarchists, the communists, they manipulated the workers in order to get good optics. So now that you understand, like, the actual history and the geopolitics of the time, you can now understand why Hitler rose to power, right? It's because the average German person wasn't listened to, like, his grievances weren't considered. And when people say Germany started World War II, let's not forget that Poland was invaded by Germany and the Soviet Union. And the Allies did not declare war on the Soviet Union. So, like, again, history is a little bit more complex, right? And the problem is, like, if you don't understand the complexity, you're doomed to repeat it. And that's the scary thing, right? Because no one wants another world war. No one wants to end up with another dictatorship. But unfortunately, right, like, that's not what the movies talk about. That's not what the social media shows or the newspapers talk about, because there's no political interest from understanding history through a complex lens, through both the good and the bad, and how can we prevent it, right? Like, having nuance and context. No, it's like one day Hitler rose to power and then shit happened. So, circling back to Asmongold, can the immigration situation lead to Hitler 2.0? Unlikely. Unlikely, because, again, a simple, charismatic man, just like one charismatic guy, cannot do what happened before World War II. Like, you would need masses upon masses of people to unify around a single guy, and that usually happens only under huge economic downturn, right? So, like, there needs to be the stars aligning, if you will. Like many consequences need to fall into place for something like that to happen. Like, it's not necessarily to have just like a guy with charisma. You also need to have people desperate enough to actually go on the streets and don't care about being canceled, don't care about being arrested, right? And that only happens if you have like a mass depression or something, or if you just had a massive war and now society is restructuring, like people are reassembling, that a lot of the elites have died, a lot of their children have perished in the war. And so, for what Asmongold is saying, you would probably need like a World War III event. And after that, you have a huge economic crisis. And then you have like a new ideology that's scaring everyone. And you have the charismatic leader rising up. And the charismatic leader makes a deal with the other faction. And that's how you get the Hitler 2.0. In the modern world, right, like let's assume in Europe, you actually do manage to get like a very charismatic figure. Let's say that he's actually genuinely a racist. Okay, what happens? Well, not much. Because you can see what happens when Trump takes office, right? Like, even if you have someone that wants to make change, there's still the judicial system, there's still his own party, there's still elites that simply do not care or listen to him. There is the international community. You can't just do anything you want now. Like, okay, you managed to gain control of Germany. Let's say that the AfD wins massively in Germany. All right, well, Germany is now surrounded by France. It's surrounded by Poland. It's, influenced by the United Kingdom, the Americans, so on and so forth. You cannot simply make the same decisions like you could during Weimar when the world is interconnected through social media and the internet. And you have the banking system and the fiat and all of that, right? Because if you do and you get cut off from everything, well, congratulations, you become North Korea, right? And how good is life in North Korea? How well is it in North Korea? Like, a nation can simply be cut off from the global community if it manages to go rogue. And even to go rogue, it's so difficult to accomplish that because you need to control the judicial part, you need to control the legislative, you need to control the government, right? So no, I don't think you'll get the Hitler 2.0. What I do think you may get, if it continues down this part, is a post-nationalist society with a lot of balkanized places. And unfortunately, we are going to that place, whether you like it or not. You know, some people think it's a good thing. I personally don't. But we are moving in a post-nation society. In other words, nations are just plots of land where economic transactions happen. And people have no connection to the land, no association with the land. You know, if you don't like it, you just travel somewhere else and work. This is not because people are agreeing with it or like there's necessarily a plan for it to happen. It's simply because of the invention of the airplane, right? Like you can just have a commercial flight that's very cheap and go all the way to the United States. And you have access to the internet, and now you can talk back with the people at home through a Zoom call. Like all of this thing has changed the mind of humanity about what a nation is, what a group of people are, right? And as time moves on, the culture is shifting more towards that direction. And so if you're looking at mass migration and what happens in let's say, Germany or France or Britain, well, you're going to get enclaves, which you already do, right? Like most of the immigrants are going to live in a specific area. They may refuse local services or not. You know, in some cases they don't. In other cases they will say, no, police cars come here, okay? And you get balkanization. Now, all of this is going to be sustainable until the gravy train runs dry, right? Until you don't have welfare. Like, there's not enough going into the system. There's no taxes going into the system for the amount of people that want to extract money from the system. When that happens, I don't know. It's either they come up with a solution, and they're already trying with the CBDC, right? Like the central bank digital currency. Or if not, well, the system collapses. If the system collapses, you get food riots and other things. I do think that if you get food riots, you will see people uniting more than being divided. You will see the immigrants and the local population, in some cases, right, if they live close to each other, putting aside their grievances and just demanding that the politicians be held accountable. Like, that happened in history. This is why I'm saying. There are multiple events where people from the ghetto, including with the people from outside the ghetto, went against the king and the nobility. Human beings usually make allies out of convenience and emotion, right? So, like, if the emotions are high, they're willing to ignore the other person or all the ideology and all the grievances. Like, no, this guy is starving, I'm starving. Like, him and I are two now, and we're fighting against someone that's more powerful, which is the elites, right? And so, I think that the elites will try to prevent that from happening. They will try to prevent a collapse. There's also possibilities that certain nations, like Britain, for instance, may become more like Pakistan, in the sense of it's still a nuclear power, but it's not as wealthy, not as rich. The system is a little bit different, right? Because what happens is that the people that are the immigrants, right, like eventually they get the right to vote. If not they themselves, then their children. And once the children get the right to vote, they create their own political parties. They support their own political parties. And there you go. Chances are that in Europe, a lot of people don't realize that the immigrants, even though they're all Muslims, not all Muslims are the same. You have the Kurds, the Shiite, the Sunni. They all may vote or support different candidates. Even though initially they may say, okay, well, we're all supporting Islam, but then they realize, well, hold on a little bit. Islam is a little bit different, right? Like the Sunni and the Shiites don't get along. So that's when the backstabbing happens. That's when the current establishment is going to try to put a wedge. But all in all, what I am trying to say is that the future is a lot more complex than Asmongold tries to say. Like, if you think, oh, you're going to get a Hitler 2.0 in 2025 with the technology that we have now, with the ability that the government has to spy on people, extremely unlikely. Especially with the pressure from the international community, right? So, whatever happens, I do think we're going to move to a system that hasn't existed up until now. Because this is another thing, right? Like, everyone looks at the past, and they're trying to say, oh, we're going to recreate the past. Not necessarily, right? Because, like, never in the past did we have the technology of the present. Like in the past, you didn't have the Library of Alexandria in your hand, which is your smartphone, the ability to take picture and videotape everything you see and then upload it to a guy in the United States. So why wouldn't we assume that you can have a completely new system? A new system of government that didn't exist. Will it be better? Probably not. But it will exist, much different than anything else we had until now. Potentially something similar to cyberpunk. I don't fucking know. Right? But I do see that corporations may actually end up playing a bigger part than they have up until now. Let me know what you guys think, though. And as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.